What's good, guys? This is Unjolly Ranchers, diving into the shadows of life's untamed tales. Today's story is one of life and death. It's about how I crashed my motorcycle. I planned on getting a video out last Saturday, but I ended up going to a club for the first time, and that's a whole story on its own you'll see shortly. Anyways, let's get into it. Now, this story takes place 2 years ago back in 2022. It was a day like any other back then. I woke up, took a bong rip, and was thinking about what kind of video I wanted to make for my TikTok that day. After thinking for a while, I decided I just wanted to do something crazy on my new bike. It was a 2005 250 Ninja, so I went outside, turned the key, and started the bike. After a few minutes of letting her warm up, I hopped on and went out to the road in front of my driveway, which was just a little straight stretch. Keep in mind, I live outside of town, so not many people drove on this road. So I started out practicing my wheelies, trying to get as high as I could off the ground, keeping her in first gear, maybe doing 5 miles an hour. I'd pull in the clutch and rev my RPMs up to 7,000, then drop it, forcing the bike to kick up and ride a wheelie. Now, riding wheelies have never come easy to me. Even after hours of practice, I just couldn't ride them for long, so I didn't want to post anything about that because I'm a complete perfectionist when it comes to my content. Even throughout my YouTube journey, I'll go back and watch my older videos, then notice that my audio levels are slightly off, or my audio just isn't clear enough, and it really bugs me. But I had another idea. If you guys have watched my old video, The Worst Place to Fall Asleep, you'll know that I can ride a BMX bike backwards all over town. So it gave me an idea. I haven't seen too many people ride a motorcycle backwards, so you know I had to try it. I hopped on my bike backwards, sitting on the handlebars like I always would on my BMX. But this is where it got really complicated. I had to do everything backward, not just steering, but I had to put the clutch in with my right hand instead of my left, and then gas it with my left hand while using my right foot to shift. So I pulled the clutch in, shifted her into first gear, and slowly let the clutch out while giving her some gas. But I just couldn't do it. I almost ended up laying my bike over flat, and it scared the hell out of me. I didn't want to screw up my brand new bike. In most cases, when I was trying something new that was hands-on, it would usually just come pretty naturally to me, but this is one of those things that I just didn't want to learn. So I rode around for a bit longer, doing some more wheelies. Then another idea came to mind, something I'd never seen anyone on the internet do before. Personally, I try to be original. I don't like to fit in. Being different is my pastime. So I went online to see if anyone has done it before, and there were only a couple people who posted videos about it, and after seeing how it was done, I gave it a try. So riding my bike down the street in second gear, I let off the gas and went no hands, trying to feel how I could balance this bike and how quickly it would lose its momentum without being given any gas. That part was really easy, and she'd stay going. So I turned her around and did it again. But this time, I jumped on top of my bike, squatted on the seat, and let go of the handlebars. It was a little wobbly at first, but it didn't make me too uncomfortable, so I gave it another go. This time, instead of keeping my feet together, I put one on my back seat and then one on my gas tank as if I were riding a longboard, and this, oh my god, it was way more comfortable. Going back and forth down the road, I did this many times, slowly working my way up to a standing position. Eventually, I was able to surf my motorcycle like a damn longboard, standing high, leaning back and forth, making myself turn. Now that I was comfortable doing it, it was time to get a video. So I grabbed my Bluetooth speaker, leaned my phone against it, and pressed record. I then rode away from my camera, doing a wheelie, turned around, then jumped back on the bike, let go of the handlebars, stood up proud, surfing my motorcycle back and forth down the street past my camera. I was feeling confident, man, so I hopped off my bike, watched the video, put my phone back in my pocket, then rode around some more. But here's where the story gets a little chaotic. I was too damn confident, and I had just learned how to do this, and I was really pushing my luck. I was surfing back and forth for maybe an hour trying to get it perfect to the point where I could do it through town. So there I was doing my thing, and everything went black. To this day, I still don't remember what happened. I must have hit my head pretty hard. So there I was, laying on the ground to the side of my neighbor standing over me. I slowly leaned up with an intense pain in my left elbow and left thigh. As I sat up, he told me what happened and that he was watching the whole thing, saying it was super sweet, but my tire turned to the left out of nowhere and that I lost my balance and fell pretty damn hard, hitting my head, saying that I might have a concussion. My mind was super foggy. I could barely comprehend what he was saying. I tried standing up, but my vision started to blur, so I just sat back down. My neighbor, seeing I was alive, then picked up my bike for me and put it on the kickstand. All I could think was, no, my bike, shit, not my bike. So I stumbled to my feet and tried walking over to her, almost passing out again, falling to the ground to make sure my bike was okay. I did not care about myself, I just wanted to make sure my bike was okay. So there I was, barely conscious, sitting on my knees looking over my bike. I turned to my neighbor and asked him, "Is she okay? Is she broken?" My neighbor actually owns a motorcycle shop and he works on bikes for a living, so he looked her over and said, "Honestly, you're really lucky to be alive. You should be more concerned if you're okay, not your bike." He looked over my bike and said, "You were both really lucky, and you're not dead. The bike only has a few scrapes on the plastic and a broken turn signal and a bent handlebar." I then asked him to start my bike for me as I collected myself, and she fired right up. I was only a few hundred feet from my house at the time, and he asked me if I needed help walking home and offered to ride my bike for me. Half conscious, I thanked him for the offer, but refused and said, "No, I really appreciate everything you've done for me. I've got it from here. I'm feeling way better now." He asked me again if I was sure, so I reassured him. I was alright, shook his hand and thanked him once again for everything. I then hopped on my bike, rode home and parked her in the driveway, then laid in the gravel and almost fell asleep. But right as my eyes were starting to close, I remembered what he said. I probably had a concussion, and my head was ringing. It hurt like hell, so I sat up. I then stumbled into my house, took my helmet off, but when I looked at my helmet, it was almost in pieces. A huge gash on the top left side of it and a massive scrape across the visor. The helmet was cracked in multiple places and barely in one piece. That's when I realized I did probably have a concussion. Looking at my clothes, they were torn up, so I took my shirt off and noticed my elbow was bleeding like crazy. Half conscious, I grabbed the hydrogen peroxide and started cleaning out my elbow, thinking, please don't be broken. Now, there was so much adrenaline rushing through my body, I couldn't feel a thing. I started looking around for bandages, but I couldn't find anything except for a few band-aids, and that wouldn't cut it. So I grabbed some paper towels and electrical tape, then wrapped myself up the best I could. Then I took my pants off to the site of a long rip in my thigh. It wasn't bleeding terribly, but it was ripped to shreds, so I cleaned that up and did the same. After looking myself over one last time, half conscious, realizing there wasn't any visible injuries, I threw my clothes back on and limped outside because my crazy ass wanted to work on my bike. I fixed myself up, now I gotta fix my bike up, right? All my friends tell me that I'm crazy for the kind of shit I do, and looking back at this story, I can see why. Now, as I worked on my bike, I had the worst headache. Throbbing pain rushed through my skull, but all I could think was, I am so sorry. Looking at my bike scratched to hell. But at this moment, my mom pulled up with her boyfriend, then ran over to me with medical supplies in her arms. She gave me a gentle hug, asking me what happened. I just looked at her half-conscious and said, are you psychic? How do you know I crashed? She then told me that my neighbor had called her and told her what happened, so she brought over everything she could find to help. Then asked me if I needed to go to the hospital. Now, guys, I've only been to the hospital once before this happened, and it's because I got third-degree burns from my knuckles to my elbow in a house fire. All they did was cut off the dead skin, put ointment on me, wrap up the injury, then charge me $750 for something I could have done at home for 20 bucks. So I looked into my mother's eyes and said, "No, it wasn't that bad. I just scraped my elbow a little bit and my thigh. But thank you so much for coming. This really means a lot to me." I was just trying to downplay how bad it actually was, not to worry her, and I didn't want her taking me to the hospital for another bill I'd have to pay. After she left, I went back inside, removed my ghetto bandages, and did them right. Shortly after this though, I found myself laying in bed listening to loud music to keep myself awake. But I wasn't all there. Something was definitely wrong. Though I had a concussion, I ended up falling asleep 2 hours later. So, fast forward to this present day, I ended up being fine. I mean, I got hit by a car on my 15th birthday by an old Asian woman driving a red Prius. I did a backflip and landed directly on my back, then just rode my bike to my buddy D's house, feeling broken. Dad didn't raise no bitch. I don't think my elbow got broken during that accident, and everything healed fine for the most part. The one thing about that injury to my elbow though, I can't do push-ups anymore. Every time I try to do a push-up, my left elbow clicks and pops and causes a lot of pain. Other than that, I feel great to this day. I just wish I could do push-ups, but it's better than losing an arm, I guess. And yeah, I think that pretty much wraps up this crazy ass story. The moral here is don't be a dumbass like Z doing crazy tricks on his motorcycle. I am always pushing my luck, and this time that luck ran out. I'm honestly lucky to be alive. Anyways, I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. If you guys have ever been seriously injured before, I'd love to hear about it in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more crazy life stories. Stay tuned for more on Jolly Tales. Until next time, peace.